This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
13 Daggers Tattoo Studio is looking for a new tattoo artist. Must be established with a strong portfolio and good work ethic. Stop by today at 13 Daggers across from Patriot Park on Fort Campbell Boulevard. Clarksville's ultimate tattoo studio. Tattoos, touch-ups, and consultations. See the artist's work online at 13daggerstattoo.com and get the custom experience you want with killer ink. Book today and get pricked by a pro. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio. Working hard on the Boulevard.
Here at Tobacco Road Sports Radio, we ask the tough questions.
Hey, you got any left-handed footballs?
We're never afraid to tell you how we feel.
Come on, we look like the damn Bad News Bears.
We'll debate sports. We'll debate anything.
Man, you lying. You ain't never met Martin Luther King. Not the way out, but yes, he did. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he did not.
No matter what, Tobacco Road Sports Radio has you covered.
I'm going to come right back at him. Soldier.
You're listening to Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports, brought to you tonight by 13 Daggers Tattoo. Are you a professional tattoo artist? Are you looking for work? Then contact 13 Daggers Tattoo, located at the Fort Campbell Army Post. Want to welcome everyone on our show tonight to our Northeast Streaming Sports Studios. We are so very, very happy to have Frankly Speaking Sports on Roku Television under the Northeast Speaking Sports channel. Go ahead, if you don't have Roku, or if you do have Roku, go ahead, sit down in front of your TV, download Northeast Streaming Sports, and watch us in the comfort of your own home, on your couch, drinking an adult beverage, and maybe even having a sandwich or ice cream or popcorn, whatever you want. So I want to thank everybody so very, very much for tuning in, as well as our good buddies on Tobacco Road SportsRadio.com. That's right, TobaccoSportsRadio.com. You can listen to the entire version of Frankly Speaking Sports tomorrow, 11 a.m. on Tobacco Road SportsRadio.com. Thank you to SportsWire for allowing us the opportunity to be on your network and all our other networks, such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. I don't know if I said YouTube and Twitter, but if I didn't, there you go. I said them again. Double duty for those guys. So thank you very, very much. We have a full show for you today. If all of you do not notice or did not know, tomorrow starts the Sweet 16 in college basketball. Best time of year for college basketball. And tonight, we preview all 8 games for you. And then later on in the show, about 30 minutes from now, we're going to have the great Scott Marsh. Scott Marsh is a broadcast at 1140 WKHTK. He's also a host of Game Night prior to the Sacramento Kings games. And he's the play-by-play voice for the UC Davis football and basketball team. Very, very, very knowledgeable on college basketball. Has his own show. We're looking forward to talking some Sweet 16 tonight with him. And then before we end the show, time permitting, which I think we should have enough time for, hopefully, we will talk a little Charlotte FC. We have Derek Jones, who is the new midfielder, came over from the Houston Dynamos. We have an insert from him. We had a chance to ask him a question today at today's press conference. We'll be more than happy to share that with you as well. But ladies and gentlemen, it is March Madness time. And I'll tell you what, folks, when you look at March Madness and you look at all the different things involved in March Madness, what great, great matchups we have. We have some really, really good matchups. And then you look at some of the matchups and you say, how the heck did this team make it here? But at the end of the day, folks, the one thing that the NCAA tournament proves year after year after year is on any given night, any team can beat any other team. And that's no difference here, folks. We're going to have the same type of play starting tomorrow and Friday in the next round of the NCAA tournament. And let's go ahead and kick it off right now. I'm going to go ahead and get my settings bearings so you folks can all enjoy this. We're going to start off, I believe it is, let's see what order I put it in today. I think I actually got it in the right order. All right. Let's go ahead and start off with tomorrow night, beginning, I believe it's about 7:09 p.m. to be exact. We're going to have Arkansas playing Gonzaga. And what a game that's going to be, folks. What an incredible game that is going to be. When you look at Arkansas versus Gonzaga, Arkansas is the long SEC team, the only SEC team that remains in the tournament. It's not very often where you can go to the Sweet 16 and say only one SEC team is in it. But this year, we get to do so. It was the defense last week for Eric Musselman's Arkansas Razorbacks that won this game for them versus New Mexico State. Now, in this game, Gonzaga is favored by 9 points. But, folks, take those spreads, and I can tell you where to go shove them. Because in this tournament, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter. Gonzaga has 5 legitimate scorers on this team. The tower in front court of this team is incredible for Gonzaga on both ends, on offense and defense, with Darren Timme and Chet Holmgren. Gonzaga is number 1 in the NCAA in scoring points per game at 87.8%. Now, if Arkansas is going to win this game, if they are going to win this game, they're going to have to do it on defense. And Jalen Williams is going to be a big part of this because he's got to have the honor of covering the freshman sensation Holmgren. And this is a guy that if you can stop him inside, what does he do? He goes outside and he becomes one heck of a mid shooter from range, mid-range shooter. Sorry, got my word stuck there. So very, very, very good. All their guards are good. On Gonzaga, Arkansas has to, score more than 53 points than they did in the last game versus New Mexico State, or they're not going to win this game at all. Now, if you're Arkansas, you want to keep this game close. You want to keep this game close because Arkansas is a heck of a lot better on the free throw line than Gonzaga is. And remember, Gonzaga, one of the good teams they finally played. They played Memphis last week and gave up 78 points. If Arkansas is going to win this game, they are going to have to score points, and they're going to have to do it often. Arkansas needs to get JT Notie going. 14.8 points per game so far in the tournament. Stanley Nunde has 14.3 points, but the guy that they got to get going, Arkansas, in this game, if they believe or if they have a chance to win, is going to be Odesi Tony. He just needs to get more consistent in rebounding and scoring. Well, I have one game where he looks brilliant, he looks like an all-star. Then the next game, you don't even know who he is. At the end of the day, Arkansas has to continue to take those high percentage shots. They're not a team that takes bad shots. They're very, very, very good at shooting very reliable shots, and they make a good percentage of their shots. If they're going to win this game, they're going to have to take care of those first shot opportunities because they're not going to get second chance opportunities. When you look at this game, Gonzaga is a team that just for some reason, I just don't think they have it this year. They're a good team. They continue to be a good team. They make the NCAA Sweet 16 year in and year out. But at the end of the day, if you're asking me who wins this game, I'm picking Arkansas in an upset to go ahead and beat Gonzaga. Let's move over to the Michigan Villanova game. And boy, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be playing Villanova. Oh my God. I don't even think this game is going to be that close. And I hate to say that for the fans of Michigan, but I don't believe Michigan is a very good team. I'm not a big Juwan Howard fan, but I'll tell you what, Villanova have 6 players on this team that are upperclassmen. 6 of their players are upperclassmen. And when you talk about seniority and experience in this tournament, Villanova has it. Villanova currently has a 7-game winning streak. That's right, a 7-game winning streak. And I got to tell you, Jay Wright of Villanova has done a tremendous job and has this team in a position where they could really battle for the national championship this year. I really, really believe that. Colin Gillespie is the leader on this team, averaging 16 points a game. I love Justin Moore, who has 15 points a game, and Jermaine Samuels averaged 10.7 points a game. And look at Brandon Slater, 8.7 points per game. And these statistics, folks, are in the tournament only. And then Eric Dickinson on the boards for this team is a beast right now, averaging 9.3 points a game and 9.3 rebounds. And then, of course, you got Caleb Daniels. But the one reason I think Villanova blows Michigan out because they take care of the opportunities that are presented them. Villanova is the number 1 team. Listen to this, folks. The number 1 team in free throws at 82% the whole year in the NCAA. Michigan, Hunter Dickinson, what can you say about this guy? And Eli Brooks, 2 very, very good players. The offense on this team is around Hunter Dickinson. If Villanova's defense and Jay Wright's team comes out and has a good game plan to cover Dickinson, this game will not be even close because Michigan doesn't have much of anything else. Michigan is average. I apologize. Eli Brooks is averaging about 14.5 games in the last 2 games. But I really, really believe in this game, folks. It's not even going to be close. And I hate to say that about a Sweet 16 game. And I know, folks, everybody says, Larry, be careful what you say. This is the tournament. But at the end of the day, I pick Villanova to really win big here versus Michigan. We move on to the 3rd game on Thursday night, which is Texas Tech and the high-flying Duke Blue Devils. How about those Blue Devils? I'll tell you what, Coach K is not ready to have the party yet that he is no longer coaching. And guess what? I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow night either. I have a firm belief in Duke tomorrow night. Duke is playing unbelievable basketball right now. Unbelievable basketball. They were unbelievable last game. Duke is averaging 8 more points a game than Texas Tech is averaging. So by a pretty good number that Duke is. They hit a very, very high percentage of the shots. Duke is a better all-around team than Texas Tech, okay? No doubt about it. They are led by their guards. How about R.J. Davis last game, pumping in 30 points, I believe, versus Michigan State? And when he doesn't play well, it seems like Caleb Love plays well and vice versa. But they got 2 guards that are very capable of putting that game in their hands. Then let's not forget the big man underneath, Paolo Banchero. I mean, averaging 19 points in the tournament, 7 rebounds. That's what he had versus Michigan State. And one of my favorite Duke players, and it's hard not to like this guy when you watch him day after day after day, and that has to be Mark Williams, who is had 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 blocks. But Neither team is a good team at the free throw line. Texas Tech, doesn't hit a high percentage of their threes. They turn over the ball a lot, which Duke can go ahead and convert into scoring points. They only hit 70% of the free throw. So if it's a close game and it comes down to free throws, you can wipe Texas Tech off the board. But Mark Adams, first-year coach, done a great job getting them here, 27-9 on the season. They're led by Kevin McCullough and Bryson Williams. Each had 14 points versus Notre Dame. And Kevin O'Banner had 15 points and 15 rebounds in that game. But at the end of the day, as well as Texas Tech played last game, I think Duke is going to be too much for them, and Duke will move on in the NCAA tournament. Let's go to the last game of the evening. It's going to be out south, Houston versus Arizona. And I'll tell you what, Houston, very, very surprising team this year. They whooped up on the Illini, although the score looked a little bit closer than it actually was. But this is a good Houston team. But it's not a good enough Houston team, I believe, to go ahead and beat the Arizona Wildcats. Arizona Wildcats, both teams right now are streaking. They're both playing very, very well. They're both very hot. Arizona, everybody knows, has a powerful offense. They're first in the nation in scoring, third in points scored. They are 9 more points per game than Houston averages over the course of the year. But they're also fourth in rebounding. The only thing that worries me about this Arizona team is they do have a tendency to turn over the ball quite often. They're averaging 13.4 turnovers per game. They did win the Pacific 12 outright this season, and they won the tournament title as well in the Pac-12. Benedict Mathurin is just unbelievable. 30 points versus TCU, 8 rebounds. He was 11 of 13 on the free throw line. And then Seneg, Christian Coloco had 28 points versus TCU, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocked shots. When you move over to the Houston side, Houston, once again, we talk about the tournament. It comes down to teams being good at the free throw lines. How many guys come on and ladies come on this show? They talk about college basketball in general, and they talk about at this time of year, not that it's not important the other time of year, but how much Jim Herrick, the great UCLA coach on last night, said 25% of the game is free throws. When you get in the tournament, it becomes a third of the game, 33%. And for that reason, Houston's going to have trouble. They lost 2 of their best players who went out to injury at the end of the season, but they're still fighting. They're still scrapping. They're still getting intense, and they're winning ball games. Taze Moore, 21 points versus the Illini with 7 rebounds, and Jamal Sheed had 18 versus the Illini and 3 steals. But at the end of the day, I believe this Arizona team is too much of a well-balanced team to go ahead and give in to University of Houston, although I do think University of Houston will make this a game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but by the end of the day, I have Arizona winning that game by a close margin. So let's go ahead and we'll move that out of there for a second. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. And at the end of the we'll go ahead and take a quick station break, and we'll be back right after this message.
Did you know that tattooing dates back to the Stone Age? Did you know that tattoos were once a symbol of high society? Did you know that Theodore Roosevelt had a tattoo? Did you know that 13 Daggers has been serving the area for nearly a decade? Whether you want bright, vibrant colors or depth built from black and gray, let 13 Daggers create a custom piece of art just for you. Schedule your appointment and come get pricked by the pros. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio, across from Patriot Park on Fort Campbell Boulevard. Walk-ins always welcome. 13 Daggers Tattoo Studio.
We love sports.
Joe Louis, the greatest boxer ever lived.
Not only do we love sports, but we love to debate sports.
He was bad in Cassius Clay. He bad in Sugar Ray. He bad in that. Who that's the new boy has? Mike Tyson look like a bulldog. He bad at him too. He done whipped Mike Tyson there. He whipped all their ass.
For the best sports analysis in the triad.
What about Rocky Marciano?
In-depth local coverage of your favorite schools and teams.
Let me tell you something once for all. Rocky Marciano was good. But compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
And of course, the best sports debate in the triad.
Beat Joe Louis's ass.
Welcome to Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
You're welcome.
I don't know how old he was, but got it ass whipped.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm your host, Larry Frank. Sorry if we had a little audio trouble at the beginning of the show. We're back on. We're flying high, and we're talking Sweet 16 basketball this evening. I want to thank everybody so very, very much for tuning in this evening. We are about, it looks like we are about 15 minutes away from having Scott Marsh on with us. He's the broadcaster at 1140 KHTK. He's the host of Game Night prior to the Sacramento Kings games, and he's the play-by-play voice for the UC Davis football and basketball team. He'll be coming on. We'll be continuing our talk about March Madness and the Sweet 16. We continue. We move over to Friday night as those first four games were Thursday night games. You got the surprise of the tournament, the Cinderella team, baby. It's St. Peter's. They are 15th ranked in the Eastern Sectional. They are playing number 3 Purdue, who has been inconsistent throughout this year. This is a game St. Peter's does have a legitimate chance of winning. And yes, I may be on the bandwagon a little bit because of the success. I love Cinderella stories, but you know, we talked about point spreads and what you can do with them during the tournament because they don't always pan out right. Purdue is favored by 13.5 points. If you look statistically, Purdue wins in every single category. But every team that St. Peter's has played has been defeating them statistically, yet the final score, the most important statistic, has went St. Peter's way, and they have prevailed in the first couple of games. This is a St. Peter's team that has a very pesky, aggressive type defense and could give Purdue trouble. Once again, I hate saying this, but both teams are terrible at the free throw line. This game is going to basically come down to, folks, which team has less turnovers, or if you want to look at that from the other perspective, which team creates the other team to turn over the ball more, just like in any playoff type game. They got to prove, this team has to prove, who was it? Excuse me, folks. Purdue has to be able to contain Key Nadifo, who is an incredible player. He had 17 points versus Murray State, 10 rebounds, and 6 blocks. But one of my favorite guys on this St. Peter's team, as I watch him more and more, has to be Doug Edert. He's been a spark for this team. He has come in, hit some big three-pointers, hit some big shots, and he's playing great basketball right now. You know, when you talk about pressure, you need a guy there in pressure situation, whether it's making free throws or making a big shot. Doug Edert is the guy for St. Peter's. Then you got to ask for St. Peter's which Daryl Banks is going to show up. It's going to be the one that scored 6 points versus Murray State, or is it going to be the one that scored 20 points versus the University of Kentucky? Meanwhile, Purdue has James Ivey. He's averaging 19.8 points in the tournament, 5.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists. They got Trevin Williams, who had 22 versus Texas, and he's a big rebounder for this Boilermaker team. And Zach Gaudet, who also had 10 rebounds versus Texas. Now, the last 4 out of 5 games that St. Peter's has played, they have given up under 63 points. Under 63 points, which means that if they come in and play the same type of game they played last game versus Murray State, and they come in and play that aggressive defense, at the end of the day, I have an upset again for St. Peter's defeating Purdue. Let's move on. Let's go to the Midwest, and we're going to talk about Providence and Kansas real quick. As I pull up that background screen, there we go. The Jayhawks versus the Friars. I mean, will that be a good game or not a good game? I've talked all year, and Providence, give them credit for the incredible year they have. But the resurgence of point guard Remy Martin for Kansas in this tournament is just amazing. Didn't do much throughout the year. Tournament time comes, and he shows up 20 points against Creighton, 15 against, I think it was Texas Southern, if I remember correctly. Kansas has a good offensive team, but once again, they struggle at the free throw line, but Kansas is a good ball club. Providence has a well-balanced offense. They have 4 guys in the tournament that are averaging double figures, led by Okea Gabaji, who is averaging 16.4 points a game. But at the end of the day, I believe this Kansas team is going to go ahead and knock out this Big East Providence Friars team, who I have to admit had a terrific year, but it will come to an end this year. Friday night. On Friday night. Let's move over. I'm sorry, I was reading a message, folks. Let's talk about a big game. Could be one of the best games of the tournament, if you ask me, and that's going to definitely be UCLA versus North Carolina. As I move my stuff around here, so bear with me a minute, folks. All right, there we go. So, as we move this around, I am very, I said it when the tournament started. Even though UNC was upset in the ACC tournament, they were playing great basketball come the end of the season. Hubert Davis got this team playing very, very well. Not that Nick Cronin doesn't have the UCLA Bruins playing well, but these are 2 very, very good teams. And on paper, once again, I know statistics don't tell everything, but at the end of the day, UNC is pretty much defeating UCLA in every statistical category. UNC is 24th in the nation in scoring, 18th in free throw. In the first 2 games, they have scored 90 points. 90 points in the first 2 games. The one thing about UCLA, they do not turn over the ball much. So they will take the most out of their shots. Now, you got to ask yourself, okay, when I was talking about Duke earlier, I think I talked about UNC, so I apologize if I did that. But Caleb Love and RJ Davis, 2 incredible, they're very, very incredible guards. If one's not playing well, the other is playing well. So great team. Amanda Bacot, versus Baylor had 15 rebounds, 15 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks. My favorite, Brady Manick, got ejected from that game, which he shouldn't have. And, it almost cost the game. UCLA has a good defense. But they did give up 84 points to Arizona. James Jacquez Jr. leads the Bruins with 18 points. Jules Bernard, 15.4 points. And Tyler Campbell. So, this is a game that I like UNC a lot in, and I'm checking up on something real quick, folks. So, yeah, I don't know why I spoke about Caleb Love and RJ Davis when we talked about Duke earlier, folks. So I do apologize about that. Don't know what the heck was I right there? Now I'm lost a little bit here, so I apologize, folks. Here, I was doing it right. I apologize. But UNC has Paolo Banchero in there. Very, very good ball player. And at the end of the day, I think UNC wins that game. And then we'll end it up with Iowa State and Miami. Miami, whew, I'll tell you what about Miami. They are playing some good basketball right now. Also, they won a big game over the weekend. As I pull up that screen here, just moving everything around. So I apologize here, folks. All right. And this is a game when you look at it, Iowa, despite losing 3 games at the end of regular season, has now won 2 in a row. This is not, to me, Iowa State is not a real strong basketball team. I know some people will disagree with me, but they're a team that is playing with nothing to lose. Miami has a 4-guard system where all 4 guards are on the court at the same time, and they have the ability to score. Cameron McGusty, 20 points versus Auburn. Isaiah Wong, 21 points versus Auburn. Charlie Moore, 9 rebounds, 8 assists versus Auburn. Jordan Miller, 12 points versus Auburn. Meanwhile, Miami versus Auburn, Miami 48.5% field goal versus Auburn, 80% free throws, only turned over the ball 4 times. They're going to have to continue to play clean basketball like that if they want to be Iowa State, and they stole the ball 10 times against Auburn. If Miami plays the same type of game they played versus Iowa State that they played versus Auburn, they will win this game. They must control offensive boards a little more and hit on higher percentage of their shots if they want to win. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have our special guest, Scott Marsh, on with us. We'll be back right after this message.
Here at Tobacco Road Sports Radio, we ask the tough questions.
Hey, you got any left-handed footballs?
We're never afraid to tell you how we feel.
Come on, we look like the damn bad news bears.
We'll debate sports. We'll debate anything.
Man, you lying. You ain't never met Martin Luther King. Not the way out of me. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he did not.
No matter what, Tobacco Road Sports Radio has you covered.
I'm gonna come right back at him. Soldier.
You're listening to Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. And I want to apologize. For some reason, when I was talking Duke earlier in the show, I mentioned Caleb Love and RJ Davis for Duke. I meant to mention at that time Wendell Moore and Roach as the guards. So I apologize for that. I don't know what I was thinking there, but I do apologize. But ladies and gentlemen, at this time, as I organize my paperwork here, I want to go ahead and introduce to you a gentleman that is a broadcast at 1140 KHTK. He's the host of Game Night prior to Sacramento Kings games, and he's the play-by-play voice of UC Davis football and basketball. Let's welcome in Scott Marsh. Scott, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you, my man, Larry?
I'm doing great, buddy. I know you just worked in the Sacramento Kings game. You're working some overtime here, so I do appreciate you coming on with us and joining us to talk some March Madness with us.
Hey, anytime I can talk some hoops, it's good. The Kings just got a 110-109 win, so we're happy about that, and now we're ready to turn our attention to Sweet 16 action.
We definitely are. Let me ask you this. I mean, before we start anything, I think it's real difficult to start a conversation about the Sweet 16 without mentioning the unbelievable ride that St. Peter's is on right now. Do you think they have a legitimate chance of defeating Purdue on Friday night?
Well, they beat Kentucky, right? So they've proven they can beat anybody in this tournament. So I always root for a Cinderella. I mean, it's tough to continue to prove upset after upset, but you watch the way this team plays, the chemistry that they have, the unity that they have, the passion that they play the game with, the love of the game is amazing. And it's interesting, just, you mentioned the Kings and Alvin Gentry, head coach of the Kings. He went out of his way at a press conference earlier on a Sunday. He wasn't even asked a question about the tournament, but he came out and said, I have a word of advice for everybody who's sitting in this room today. Watch St. Peter's play the game. They play the game the way the game should be played. He was so complimentary, just without even being questioned about this team. And this story is amazing for a true David to be a Goliath like they did. Sure, I give him a slugger's punch. I mean, the tournament this year has become more a pick-em than any other year with the distribution of players and the transfer portal and everything else. So to answer your question, yes, I definitely think they can beat the Boilermakers.
Yeah, and everybody talks about the default on this team, but the one guy that sticks out to me that seems to be the spark plug, Scott, on this team, I'd love to get your opinion, is Edert. Edert is incredible. He comes in, he makes a big shot, whether it's a free throw or it's a big three-point shot. Talk about him and what kind of spark he's been for this team.
He's been a total spark plug. Every time, like you said, they've needed a big bucket, he's the guy. You can tell he's the person who gets them going. Now, obviously, unlike some of the other teams who, I've watched a little bit more of, I've only seen St. Peter's in this tournament like everybody else. So, I'm getting to learn this team as America is. But certainly Edert is the guy that gets that group going. But if you tell, it's truly a team effort with this team. The way they run their system and some of their backdoor cuts and their passing ability is just absolutely amazing.
What team besides Purdue, Scott, scares you or could surprise people the remainder of the way?
Well, I don't know. This is not nearly the same upset as a St. Peter's, but personally, when I was filling out my brackets, I had North Carolina to the Final Four. I know they're, it's a blue blood. We understand that, but they were a lower seed. They don't have a great bench, but they really started to come on. That win against Duke at Duke with Hubert Davis was very impressive. Bacot is as good as you can get. So I like the Tar Heels. I think this is a team that has gotten on a momentum swing late. In some respects, maybe they're a Villanova from '85, a team that can make a run all the way back from a low seed like they had. So I don't know if that's the upset that you're looking for necessarily, but that's kind of been my team since the start of this tournament.
I've never been a huge Bacot fan. I really haven't. But the one guy, I love Caleb Love, but the most impressive guy had to be R.J. Davis scoring 30 points the last game in a big, big win. It seems to me like this team has a guard that one plays well one night, the other doesn't, and they rotate. Talk about these guards of North Carolina.
Now, the guards are absolutely fantastic. And in the game against Baylor, if Manning doesn't get thrown out of the game, they might win that game by 30 or 40. They're up 25 when that happens. Baylor makes this incredible, run to get it back in overtime before they step up again. The guard play is fantastic. Again, they're a small nucleus team. Hubert Davis isn't going to go deep to this bench with the Tar Heels. And maybe that's a potential weakness, but I always feel like at the college level, you can get away with playing a rotation of 6, 7, sometimes at the most 8 players. And that's what North Carolina is going to have to do if they're going to continue to survive and advance here.
The ACC throughout the course of this year has really been discredited. And I use the word discredited.
Yes.
By a lot of people in college basketball. They're saying it's not as powerful as the other conferences. And I disagreed with that on one of my shows a couple of weeks ago. Here is a conference, Scott, that right now has 7 teams that have won over 20 games this year. They had 5 teams make it to the tournament, and 3 of them, UNC, Duke, and Miami, are still in the tournament in the Sweet 16. What do you think those people have to say now?
I think they're eating a lot of, crow right now. To your point, I agree with what you're saying. And I have to admit, I was maybe one of those people because the SEC to me was the best conference all season long, but they certainly haven't held up in the tournament. Look at Auburn went down in flames. We know what happened with Kentucky. Arkansas is alive, but they really haven't played well in the first 2 games. They get Gonzaga tomorrow night. I don't see Eric Musselman's team beating Mark Few in the Zags in San Francisco tomorrow. So you're right. And, with Duke, they're writing so much pressure with Coach K. in that scenario, but they certainly have lived up to the billing early on. And Miami of Florida might be the most impressive team we've seen out of the ACC so far. I mean, that was a dominant win in round 2 for them, and they look like a team that could easily advance to the Elite 8 or Final 4.
Let's talk about Miami a minute. They have a 4-guard system, and all 4 guards play a major role in this game. They rebound with the guards, and they each can score. They're each going to score in double figures for you. It's a very unique offense, but it's one you can't argue with right now. It's gotten them to the Sweet 16.
No question. It's a modern day basketball. It's an NBA philosophy where it's transitional, players who play multiple positions, get out, score, run, pass. They're extremely athletic. They impose their will so far in this tournament, and they've got a favorable draw. I heard you talking about Iowa State early on. Obviously they get that matchup at a Sweet 16. I'm favoring the Hurricanes to win that game.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, one of the things that we haven't talked about, and so important, especially this time of year, I had the pleasure of having, you'll remember, the former UCLA Bruins coach, Jim Herrick, on last night with us. And he said, Larry, you know what? 25% of the game during the regular season is free throws. When you go into the tournament, it becomes 33% of the game. That being said, Villanova by far is the best shooting free throw team in this tournament, but Gonzaga struggles at the free throw line. Could Gonzaga potentially not get to the championship due to the lack of their ability to hit free throws?
That's a great point. I would never go against Coach Jim Herrick because he's one of the all-time greats. I had a chance to work with him. He was coaching his grandson at Cal State Northridge for a while, Brendan Herrick, and I call a lot of Big West basketball games, and so I spent some time with him. He is an absolute treasure, and I would never want to go against the coach. In terms of Gonzaga in this tournament, I really like them to beat Arkansas tomorrow night. I have Texas Tech beating Duke tomorrow night as well. That Gonzaga-Texas Tech game, if that's how it shapes up, really is an intriguing game to me because Texas Tech is probably the deepest team in this tournament. They go 10, 11 deep. They come at you in waves. Gonzaga has not played great either. If that game, to your point, is close and there's some free throws late, maybe it does catch up with the Zags. That's entirely possible. But personally, I think Gonzaga gets all the way to the championship game. I like most, pretty boring. I like Gonzaga, Arizona in a championship game, and I like the Wildcats to win it.
We're talking to Scott Marsh, broadcaster at 1140 KHTK, also host of Game Night prior to Sacramento King games and the play-by-play voice of the UC Davis football and basketball teams. Let's go through the games real quickly before we let you run. You mentioned Arkansas versus Gonzaga. Yep. The one thing that sticks out to me is this freshman sensation, Chet Holmgren. It seems like when you play up against him and create him or not give him the opportunity to get inside, he'll just move back and hit some shots from mid-range. Talk about this guy and how dangerous and how does Arkansas play him. I'm going to imagine, if I'm wrong, tell me that Jalen Williams will probably be the one that gets the assignment to cover him for Arkansas.
Yeah, Williams will be the one, I think, and Eric Musselman's going to be very physical with him. That's always the strategy, right? Because he looks like a toothpick out on the court, but his skill set is so extreme, and the physicality doesn't seem to bother him, to his credit. But I don't know how else you try to defend him. You talk to a lot of scouts throughout the league; they think he's going to be the number one pick in the draft. That's how talented he is. And to your point, he has a great mid-range game. He's so smooth, but he's also still a dominant player in size, yet not really having the physical girth inside. So if Arkansas is not able to knock him off the post a little bit, be physical with them, I'm not sure how you shut him down, truthfully.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The guys, there's no better word than to use beast as the word. He's an incredible player. But, this team, Arkansas, relies a lot on inside shooting. They take high percentage shots. But we talked earlier about free throws. If this game, and I say if, it's a big if because Gonzaga is the number one scoring team in the NCAA per game. But if Arkansas can keep this game close within 5 points, and this game does come down to the free throw line, Arkansas does have the edge.
Yeah, no, from a free throw standpoint, you might be right. From an experience standpoint, I would say the Zags do because they've been there and done that. This kid, JD Note for Arkansas, to me is one of my favorite players in the tournament. He's a complete gamer. And, I think he's the type of player that Muss is going to have to get 25 or 30 points from tomorrow night if Arkansas is going to be able to pull it off. Arkansas's biggest challenge in this game is they just don't score enough points to keep up with Gonzaga.
And speaking of that, if they have a chance at winning this game, Arkansas, you mentioned Note, but another guy that's going to have to show up for them tomorrow is Odesi Tony. It seems like one game he scores a lot of points, and then the next game he's non-existent. They have a chance to win. Wouldn't you agree that he's going to have to show up tomorrow night? They're
going to have somebody who isn't been consistent. It always takes that one player, right, to step up to pull off the massive upset. So I'm going to agree with you on that, definitely.
All right, let's move over to Houston versus Arizona. Both teams are really playing good basketball right now, entering the tournament. Arkansas, first in the nation for overall scoring, very good offensively. The only thing, and I have Arizona winning this game, but the only thing I see that could really hurt Arizona is the one statistical category they're not good in, and they have a tendency, Scott, to turn over the ball a little bit more than you would like to see a number one team do.
And that's a fair criticism. And obviously the game against TCU, in my opinion, was the best game of the tournament so far. And really, TCU had Arizona beyond the ropes. If it wasn't Ben Mathurin with the three-pointer to send that game to overtime, we're not talking about the Wildcats right now. And for my money, Mathurin is the best player in the country right now. Houston, they've been playing great. Kelvin Sampson's got something going. That kid, Tazi Moore, I got a chance to watch him play a lot. He's a transfer from Cal State Bakersfield. He's a tough lefty, had 21-7 in the last game. I give Houston a fighter's chance. I actually think the style of play, the way Houston plays, helps Arizona. Arizona likes to get out and run. They like to push pace. They like to be in transition. Houston's a similar team. And I think that type of game favors the Wildcats.
And, let's not forget, this is a Houston team that has handled a lot of adversity to get here. Two of their star players got injured before the end of the season, which you would have thought would have put them right out. Yet they won 2 games so far, and they won their last 11 out of 12 games, Scott.
I'm with you. This is a quality team. And let's not forget Arizona lost their point guard right before the tournament started too. So the Wildcats aren't at 100% strength either. So it makes it interesting. Again, Houston to me is certainly the underdog in this game, no question, but they have a fighter's chance of winning this one.
Yeah, and I agree. This game is not going to be one of those blowout type games. I think this game being very, very tough.
I think it's going to be a very entertaining game to watch.
Yes, it will. And, a lot of people don't realize they had a really good lead in that Illini game before things got a little scary there for a little bit. But this is a good Houston team.
Yes, it is.
Texas Tech versus Duke. Okay, Coach K is saying it ain't over yet. Yeah. I'm not retired yet. I mean, I know you have favorite Texas Tech, and you said that. But when you look at this Duke team, I mean, what do you think the chances are of defeating Texas Tech?
Well, if their stars rise up, they have the more talented team. To me, Texas Tech is a battled team that just, again, comes at you in waves. The Red Raiders, they're going to play 10-11 tomorrow night, no doubt about it. So can Duke get the same caliber? I mean, they've gotten off to a great start in this tournament. They've looked really good in the first 2 games. I mean, they manhandled Michigan State pretty well. It was a close game, but they certainly responded down the stretch with that great finish to the game. I just think Texas Tech has a little bit more experience, has a little bit more depth. I like the Red Raiders in this game, and I don't necessarily want to see Coach K crash out in the Sweet 16. I'm kind of rooting for him to have a great run, but I think it might be his last game coaching tomorrow night.
See, I like Duke in this game. So this is one of the ones we disagree on because Duke hits a high percentage of the shots they take. Now, the key is, you would think they're an awesome rebounding team. They're not the best. They, but if they score on first chance opportunities, they have a very, very good chance. They hit 48% from the field during the season, which is tremendous. I think it was 5th in the nation. But talk about the importance if Duke does have a chance of winning. Talk about the importance of Mark Williams coming to bat for the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, well, Mark Williams is the key to their team. As you know, you're pointing him out. He is like certainly the guy that they rely upon to deliver, especially late in the games. I think Texas Tech's going to throw 3-4 different guys on him defensively. I think you're going to see a lot of different combo zones. You might even see potentially some box and one against Mark Williams tomorrow night. I think the Raiders are going to be ready to go after him. But, you know, again, in these tournament games, your best players have to rise to the occasion. And Mark Williams is that guy for Duke, I think.
You know, entire season, I haven't given Paolo Banchero a lot of credit. I just haven't been really satisfied with his enthusiasm. Maybe energy is the right word. But I have to admit, I watched him play in this last game, and I was very, very impressed versus Michigan State. Looked like it was full of energy, and he was playing both sides of the ball, where sometimes you don't see him do that. How important is him to have just as good of a game as he did versus Michigan State?
I think you said it perfectly. You have to. Now, again, this is March Madness, right? If a player has any problem getting up for a tournament game, then, you know, they're not going to be a Duke Blue Devil, right? I mean, there's no team in this tournament that has more pressure than Duke, right? More to play for with the Coach K story. So I don't have any doubt that these players are going to be absolutely giving it 100% on both sides of the floor.
And talk about Texas Tech. The one guy that stands out to me, and I know everyone laughs, I love the way he plays, is Kevin Abenour. 15 rebounds, 15 points last game. You know, once again, he's going to be a big presence for Texas Tech on the boards.
He's an old school bruiser. I love his game. You know, he's not in a Sheway from Kentucky. I mean, but he's a pretty dynamic rebounder. He's tough inside. And you know, again, if Texas Tech can get Duke in foul difficulty, that'll be a real challenge. Duke does not have the bench that the Red Raiders do. So that could be a real difference in this game.
You know, then we go to Friday night, Scott, and I always tell people you can take the point spreads and you know where you can shove them when it comes to tournament time, because on St. Peter's is proven on any given night, any team can beat any team. And they play Purdue tomorrow night. I mean, Purdue's favored by 13.5 points, but this is a St. Peter's team that if people are counting out and think it's just a Cinderella story and they're just playing over their heads, they could be surprised tomorrow night. Because one thing about Purdue this year, you have to admit, there has been times where they have been playing inconsistent.
Yeah, no question about it. And, you know, this kind of reminds me going back to the great Princeton teams under Pete Carrill. I had a chance to work with Coach Carrill when he was with the Kings a while ago. And, you know, we always talked about tournament time, and they always pulled off the great upsets. I mean, they got UCLA one year in the tournament. You know, they almost rocked Georgetown in the heyday days way back when. And when you are locked in, you have a lot of veteran leadership. You have a unique offensive structure that you have to force other teams to guard. And of course, in the Princeton case, it was the back door that they ran so much, that Princeton offense that became so famous. St. Peter's is a team like that, and I give them certainly a real chance against Purdue. I do think the Boilermakers will win this game. I think Ivy's too good. I just do. I think Purdue is really a team. Good. He's fantastic. And I do think this run ends, but to your question, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2-point game and it comes down to the final bucket in the final seconds.
You know, we mentioned on St. Peter's Ebert. Everybody knows, you know, about Nadifo, or however you pronounce his name.
Everybody's trying to get to learn this team.
But you know what? The one guy that has to show up, and I'll say it again, I've given you a couple tomorrow night, is going to be Darryl Banks. He scored 6 points versus Murray State. But then versus UK, he scores, 20-something points. Yeah. I mean, he's going to have to be there tomorrow night because St. Peter's is going to need everybody, just like they've been for the most part, showing up in order to go on. But one thing I would say is you say the Boilermakers will win, but I wouldn't be surprised if St. Peter's does end up winning.
I wouldn't either. And you know that America is going to be rooting for St. Peter's tomorrow.
Sure. No doubt about that. Then we got Providence and Kansas.
Yeah.
The resurgence of point guard, I call it Remy Martin, who hasn't had a great year, but then all of a sudden during tournament time, he turns it up. And what did he get? 15 points against Texas Southern, 20 points against Creighton. Talk about his resurgence.
Yeah, it's been interesting. And, some players are just, they're tournament players, right? When the lights are the brightest and the stage is the biggest, it's when they're ready to perform. And this kid just might be one of those type of players, truthfully. This is another really great matchup. Providence has played well so far in this tournament. I honestly didn't have them getting this far. My bracket blew up on this side early on. So I like Kansas to win this game. I think Bill Self, this team is a team that's certainly Final Four caliber, in my opinion. But Providence has looked very good early on.
Yeah, the one thing with Providence is they're a well-balanced team. Everybody scores about the same amount of points. Mm-hmm. If you look at them, especially in this tournament, statistically, all around that 14, 15-point range. So anyone on that team can score points, which is important. But at the end of the day, I think Kansas definitely is just too tough of a team. We move on to what I consider could be one of the best games of the week in number 8 seeded University of North Carolina versus number 4 UCLA. Talk about that game.
You said it. This of all the games is the game I'm most excited to see, because both of these teams, not just that they're blue bloods and the tradition, all that, but both of these teams, like I said, North Carolina to me was maybe one of the teams that was coming and playing the best going into the tournament. And with UCLA, this is a team that made it to the Final Four last year. And if it wasn't for the incredible comeback by Gonzaga, I mean, they're in the championship game, and who knows, they maybe win it. So, and this team has all their players back. Tiger Campbell's a terrific point guard. I am worried about the health of Jaquez and see if he's going to be okay for that game. That's a major loss for the Bruins if he can't play. And that certainly changes things pretty dramatically. I don't think they can overcome if that ankle isn't, 80%. And that would be unfortunate.
We talked about Brady Manick of course, UNC, one of my favorite players on this team. And we mentioned the guard play. I know we mentioned it earlier, but once again, the importance of this team playing aggressive basketball. Hubert Davis took a lot of criticism throughout the year about this team, but I always say this, and I had an article that I written for Carolina Sports Monthly earlier today, is it's not always the team with the best record going into the tournament. It's the one playing the best basketball. And you got to look, even though UNC didn't win the ACC tournament and got upset there, besides that game, they're playing some really, really good basketball right now.
I agree with you. And for the most part, I throw away the tournament games, the conference tournament games. I don't even really look at that. To me, that's not really the greatest indicator of who's playing the best. I look kind of down the year of the regular season. I've seen so many times the teams that win these conference tournaments are not the teams that end up winning the national championship in a lot of cases. And, that's one game there. So I that wasn't part of my decision-making with North Carolina at all.
Now, does it scare you? Because UCLA gave up 84 points, I believe it was, to who was it that was it Arizona or someone they gave up 84 points to? Does it scare you that UNC, or should Arizona be scared? I'm sorry, I'll be okay. UCLA be scared that the last 2 games that Carolina has scored 90-plus points?
I think they should be scared of North Carolina, period, because the Tar Heels are a good team, right? I mean, this is definitely a very good team. So UCLA definitely should. I think the Bruins, I mean, they handled a very good St. Mary's team. Yes. Which a lot of people thought the Gales might upset UCLA. So the Bruins are playing well. I mean, the Pac-12 is another conference that's been a little bit maligned, but, Arizona obviously could win it all. USC, even though Miami of Florida took them out, we're seeing how good Miami of Florida is. But I thought the Trojans were a pretty good team also. So I just feel like UCLA's battle tested. Nick Cronin, to me, is one of the best coaches in college basketball. He seems to get the most out of his team. It's a veteran team. I really like the Bruins. I mean, I like North Carolina winning this game, but I don't know. This is the game I'm most excited about of any of the games in the Sweet 16.
No, I agree 100%. And remember, Carolina's 10th in rebounding this year, and they're 18th in free throws. So when you look at the balance of a team in the tournament, they're definitely a well-balanced team when they are playing correct on all cylinders. So this is going to be a game. I do think UNC prevails in this game, but this is going to be a game that I'm going to love to sit back, watch, and enjoy, especially if both teams are on their games.
Absolutely. And I hope Hawkes is healthy for the Bruins in this game too.
You hate to see that. You want to play the real team.
Absolutely.
Last game to talk about, and you mentioned it early. Iowa State versus Miami. Miami, that four-guard offense that we talked about earlier, that the old system that they use is working for them. How do you think they match up versus Iowa State?
Again, I think the way they're playing, I was so impressed with what they did in the second round. I mean, it was a devastating performance they put on. I like the Hurricanes to win this game. They get to the Elite Eight. Iowa State, to me, won't be able to keep up with just the pace of play that Miami is going to offer. And to your point, that they do have multiple players who change multiple positions and will push the ball. I just don't think the Cyclones can match that.
Yeah, and if you look at Miami, how they played versus Auburn, 48.5% field goals, 80% free throws, only 4 turnovers in this game, and had 10 steals. So it just shows you about the aggressiveness, having those 4 guards on the court, very fast, speedy, aggressive. But the one guy that I love a lot on this team, talk about him a little bit. Well, there's 2 guys, but the one I like the most is Cameron McGusty, who had 20 points versus Auburn.
Yeah, no, he was great. And really, I mean, that game was tied at halftime, I believe. And
yes, it was.
That second half spurt was just like they knocked Auburn out of the game in like a 5-minute stretch there, which was extremely impressive because we know Bruce Pearl's team is extremely athletic too. I mean, they were number 1 in the country for a while. But with McGusty, I do agree with you. He kind of is the spearhead of the 4 guys, and he's the one who's really going to lead the effort to push the basketball and get everybody else going. He's a terrific player. And, I love Jim Larrigan too. He's a terrific head coach at Miami. He's so well-spoken, and it was so fun to watch him in the post game say that, he heard Charles Barkley was going to take off his shirt if Auburn won the game. And, he couldn't let America have to suffer through that. So I can root for anybody who's got that good sense of humor. I don't need to see him dance in the post game quite as much, but he's certainly a lot of fun. He's been there a long time. He's a tremendous coach, and he's got a heck of a team this year.
Yeah, and the one thing about Miami, Scott, is they are not necessarily what you would consider the best offensive rebounding team. It makes sense why they're not the biggest team out there on the court. So the big deal for Miami is to do what they did versus Auburn and hit those first shot opportunities and not rely on second chance opportunities because they might not be there for them.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
But other than that, I'm going to ask you one last question. We'll let you run, Scott.
Okay.
Who I think you mentioned it early, but I'll ask you it again. Who's going to the championship?
Well, again, since my brackets are intact, I will tell you my final 4. I have Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas. Nothing exciting there. I have North Carolina coming out of the South there, and I've got Gonzaga, Arizona in the finals, or excuse me, the East with North Carolina. So I've got Gonzaga and Arizona in the championship game, and I like the Wildcats winning that game. Basically the pupil beating the teacher with Mark Few with Tommy Lloyd. So a lot could happen there, but as long as my brackets are intact, I can't go against it at this point.
I understand that. Well, listen, my friend, it all begins tomorrow night at 7:00 p.m. I want to thank you so very, very much taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports.
Hey, it's great to talk to you. I'm going to be at the games in San Francisco tomorrow night. I can't wait for the Gonzaga-Arkansas game and then followed by Duke, Texas Tech.
All right, buddy. Enjoy and be safe.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All righty. That was Scott Marsh, broadcast at 1140 KHTK. Also the host of Game Night prior to all Sacramento Kings games and the play-by-play voice of UC Davis football and basketball teams. Folks, we were going to talk a little bit about Charlotte FC. We're not going to have time due to time restraints, but we want to remind you that the Charlotte FC are home versus FC Cincinnati this Saturday night at 5 p.m. Remember, that is a 5 p.m. start at Bank of America Stadium. On behalf of all of us here at Frankly Speaking Sports, have a great, great weekend, and we'll see you again Monday night, same time and same place. Good night.